So a very warm welcome to everybody this afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us. I'll do a quick introduction to myself. As you've seen, I work for EMEA Recruitment. So we're a boutique recruitment business who work with clients mainly across the Netherlands and Switzerland, and that's within HR, procurement and supply chain and finance positions. And my world is everything HR. So I look after the markets, the HR market within the Netherlands. And of course, talent acquisition is a huge part of that, especially at the moment. I think you'll all agree, it's probably the busiest we've ever seen it. So we'll go on to introduce our guests. So we have Bianca joining us from Upfield today and Koos from Danone. So before we go into the questions, I'll let those guys introduce themselves and just give a bit of an insight into them and what they do. So over to you, Bianca.
Oh, to me. I want to give the close word. Hi, everybody. My name is Bianca Eder. I'm based in Amsterdam. I'm the global head of talent acquisition for Upfield. Upfield is a plant-based butter and oils business. We operate obviously globally, and I manage currently a team of 12 people. And that's me in short. Koos.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Koos Wurzer. I'm the global head of employer branding for Danone, a company that is operating in over 50 countries worldwide, 100,000 employees, with maybe some of the more well-known brands like Evian Waters, Danone Yogurts, Alpro, our plant-based, one of our big plant-based brands, and of course our medical nutrition and early life nutrition from Nutricia. So nice to be here today. Thanks, Katie, for inviting me.
No, thank you. Pleasure to have you both. So thank you to the delegates who provided us with some questions. There were some really interesting ones. And the one I wanted to start with was really thinking about how the world of talent acquisition has changed throughout all of our careers. I know there's been huge amounts of change, especially over the last few years. So I'd love to hear from both of you, Koos and Bianca, just to get your insight into how you think the profession's changed and your approach to it.
Well, I've been in recruitment or TA for 20 years now, so there has been a huge change, starting with technology. Starting with technology and all the technology, whether it's AI, automation, we have now. I think there's also been a change, quite rightly so, where the company is not the king anymore, but companies also have to understand that we deal with people. And it's not just, we want this, we want that, and you do as we say. There needs to be a more candidate-centric approach as well. But for me, the biggest one is definitely technology. I remember walking around with printed out big spreadsheets with names on it, or having a Rolodex with names, or getting printed out CVs sent in the mail. So for those who are not as old as I am, that was a different ball game for me. So technology is definitely one of the biggest ones for me, and I think it's great. We've got so many opportunities now. I see Koos is multiplying himself at the moment. I don't know, Koos, what are your thoughts on that?
Have we got him back? We were having a few technical issues previously talking about technology. That's quite an interesting point. He's back. Over to you, Koos.
Are you guys hearing me and seeing me? I'm so sorry about that, guys. My tech is just all over the place today. Sorry about that. I only heard about half what Bianca just said, but knowing Bianca already, half of what she's saying is excellent. So, but I think for you to kind of realize is that you're talking to a couple of dinosaurs here, So we started, me and Bianca started when we were introducing candidates through fax. I don't know if many people call here kind of fax and stuff like that. This is a long time ago, and so from that to here, it's been quite the journey, but in all honesty, what's changed? We're still matching people jobs, people's ambitions to jobs, and people that need to deliver work towards the company and deliver on the ambitions the company has. So I think we're still educating hiring managers, just like we were doing 20 years ago. CVs are also still a thing, and some of the CVs you see are still actually looking the same as they did 20 years ago. Although you see a lot of the young people really, increasing their skills, their visual design skills. So you see some really beautiful CVs out there. But I think we've been trying to become more efficient. So with our marketing activities, we how we promote our jobs, how we automate where we can, programmatic advertising, stuff like that, and we've been trying. We've been working on learning more about candidates, understanding just based on their CV, but also if we can get them through assessments and stuff like that. We want to be better at making an educated decision for selecting that right person. But since it's a two-way street, candidates have becoming more demanding, and rightfully. They want to see what they want to see from an employer before they make that major life decision. So I feel it's become more transparent, and don't know if Bianca just mentioned that already. If so, I apologize, but I think it's whether it's the more we're finding out about our candidates due to all types of technologies, or whether it's candidates learning more about us through these review sites like Glassdoor and Indeed, or great career site features like we have on our social wall, Life at Danone, where we are showing the most we can on actual life at Danone, Life at Danone. So sorry, very small promotion on our career site and social wall right there. Sorry, you can't blame me, huh? I'm in branding. So,
exactly.
I feel that's kind of more where we've been going. Becoming more demanding. Our candidates are becoming more demanding before a big life decision. And I think that's where kind of technology has been taking us.
Yeah. And
I think what Koos is saying is correct in much more eloquent words than I did. So thank you. But I think the transparency and the equality between candidates and companies is probably one of the more advanced things, and quite rightly so. As I said, the world has changed from companies just demanding candidates to do a certain thing, and I'm actually glad that candidates can find out so much, and it makes it for much more challenging conversations in interviews if they read on review sites that things are maybe not always so rosy, and you just have to tell it as it is, and you should have always told it as it is, but we just never did. And I think there's nothing better than having these honest conversations with candidates as well, and talk about the things that don't work, because as we all know, I think we all worked long enough, no company is perfect. We all have our things, but as long as you admit them and you see them and you work on them, then candidates can help you on that journey as well.
Absolutely. And I think picking up on your point, Bianca, around the candidate is king. So I've been in recruitment for probably about 17 years now, I think. And again, probably one of the biggest changes I've seen is that, no longer can you wait for the candidate to come to you. There's been such a shift in terms of, us being expected to proactively reach out to them. So as a job seeker now, you can, sit tight, and you really proactively don't need to do too much personally if you don't want to, and you can wait for the companies or the recruiters like ourselves to reach out directly to you. So I've seen a real shift in terms of, yes, waiting for the candidate to come to us, and now it's very much about that proactive search, which has always been a part of the recruitment cycle, but I certainly feel there's been a real kind of added emphasis on that in recent years.
It definitely is, as long as you don't send out the same message to 50
good point
50 candidates with exactly the same message, then I think it will be all right.
Yeah, and I think that leads us on to the question around the digital changes that have taken place in recruitment, and I know you've touched on them, but obviously LinkedIn being now such an important tool. Most organizations of a certain size have, you know, an ATS in place. So how do you think that that's changed the role of recruitment? And will the recruitment role as we've known it in the past, that more traditional, maybe more personal approach, you know, is there still a place for that today?
What a question. I tell you, I don't know. I think for the past 10 years, the amount of times I've heard AI is going to take over and we'll probably all be taken over by robots, and what a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish. You know, talent acquisition recruitment will always have a personal touch, and it needs to have a personal touch. Technology will help us. As Koos said, technology will make us more efficient. Technology can maybe help us find more candidates or choose the right candidates or the better fitting candidate at that moment. But I absolutely believe in my heart there will always be talent acquisition specialists who have a one-on-one conversation with a candidate or hiring manager, who has that personal approach. And that in 20 years, if I still work, and I hope I will still be working in talent acquisition, I'll probably still be doing interviews here and there. So yes, of course, we're changing and we're using more technology to make educated decisions. Our role will be maybe as a business
will robots
partner.
take over, Bianca? That could
Sorry?
be, yeah. Or will robots take over? I mean, I'm only 80% sure that Bianca is not a robot, and they might be taking over already. You know, no, I'm joking, of course. I don't think it will go that far. No robots taking over, augmented reality and stuff like that. But I do hope that automation in TA will allow us to kind of add quality into these huge life decisions for candidates and also for companies where they invest, because we're talking about, you know, huge investments companies make in people. Just a yearly income plus everything. It's a huge investment, and it's filled with all sorts of biases. And I do feel and I hope that you know, those automations will help us add quality into it, because in a lot of cases we still do the you know, the unstructured interviews, the, you know, competencies, and I feel that automation can add quality in those huge decisions, but also more importantly, I hope it will allow us to do all of that in a more human way, where we don't need to spend our times into you know, all of our time to screen CVs, and you know, where you know, there could be ways where that can be done in a very much more efficient way, and you know, also be taking this critical role of you know, adding that quality and that human factor towards the business. We will know where we need to deliver operational excellence. Where do we need to spend 20% of our time, where automation helps us automate 80% of the work and the volume, and where we need to have that customer intimacy with our clients, and where we spend 80% of our time on the most 20% most, you know, important people to interact with. So or I'll stand corrected, and we'll see each other in the metaverse, and you tell me I was wrong. Could be.
No, I don't think so, Koos, because what I was going to say before you so eloquently interrupted me was indeed that that I think talent acquisition can focus more, you know, leave the admin stuff or the screening the CVs and become the business partner to HR and the business as well, knowing where the business is going, to also advise on what talent do we need, what skill sets do we need in the future, and that talent acquisition specialists spend much more time in the business and have that time spent in the business and then externally to make this education, without just being, as it is in many companies still today, just being order takers. I need this, I need a brand manager, and they need to have these things, and then we go out and we find these 5 things, and then on a gut feeling, and because the hiring manager likes the candidate and they have a good connection, we decide, ooh, that's a good match. So I do hope that technology in any way, as Koos said, will make us more efficient, but allows us to spend much more time in the business. and then make the right connections to connect the right people to the right jobs.
Do you think there's a danger? I know, again, thinking about LinkedIn as a good example, where they're often using algorithms to sort of screen CVs and potentially remove some people from the process. Do you think we're in a position where we might be missing out on great talent because we're relying on these algorithms and technology that don't have the human touch?
Yeah, we already are missing out. We've missed out since recruiters have existed. We've missed out on great talents because some people can't write a CV, and I'm the first person to admit it. If you look at my CV, it's really rubbish. So of whatever, we always missed out on great candidates just by making that decision that the CV is not out to find candidates by using different keywords and digging deeper, or by simply just deciding to actually go and pick up the phone and talk to this candidate and find out a little bit more, so then they convince the business again. But yeah, absolutely, we do miss out on talent, as we always have been. I don't know, Koos, what are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. No, and I mean, we know the famous case of Amazon, you know, where their AI was actually, you know, with all sorts of biases got in there, and the data, it wasn't just the right setup. So I think we're still far away of actually fully automating things like that. And but indeed, we, like you rightfully say, we're missing out on talent now. We're also missing out on, even if we see a great CV of someone who potentially could do an amazing job at something, but somebody hasn't exactly done that yet in that same industry with the same scope and all that. I think for a lot of roles, we do have a high wish list, and sometimes it's and this is what we are putting in guidelines also. And as I am in a center of expertise role, I'm not possible to kind of enforce it directly, but it's in the guidelines we put that forward as for our job ads. Is, you know, think of, you know, when we are crafting the requirements of a candidate and what we're looking for someone, is look at it from a career management perspective. You know, why would someone take a same role at the same type of company in the same industry? You know, it doesn't make any sense. You know, just if you look at a career management perspective, it would make sense to kind of see, okay, what would a perfect next step for this person be? Instead of saying, I want to basically tick all the boxes so I can show my hiring manager that this is actually a great fit. Okay, that doesn't require real skill.
I actually don't agree with that, Koos.
Oh.
I think that, no, to a certain extent, yes, I do. But I also think that there's a mass of people who don't want always the career progression, who are not looking for the career progression to get to the next step. And I think that is much more the next generation coming, who don't care about job titles, being global head of whatever long, not interesting job title, but who look at the challenge and the task at hand. So I think it's looking more of, hey, maybe I want to rock up to another company and be a global head of talent acquisition, and or be a recruitment manager, because the job itself is challenging and it lets me build, it challenges me. So I think these are the conversations there are more conversations to be had than just the career progression, because I think that's
no, sure thing. But for me, my point was more on only looking at people who exactly done that, where obviously that's a group of people, the ones you described. But there's also a group of people that actually would be able to step up and get a larger scope, you know. So it's something that I feel that we still have some place to go in, just as human beings, without kind of indeed, on your point, Katie, outsourcing it or automating it, outsourcing it to robots or to technology. I think even as humans, we have a I think a road to go there.
Yeah, I think interesting your point, Koos, about being in a world where we're not just recruiting, exactly like for like. And I know when we take people through an interview preparation process, when they're meeting with one of our clients, and we say to them, be confident about the areas that you need to develop in. And if you're not hitting every aspect of that job description, show that you're aware of it, show that you're willing to learn and develop. And actually, that's what makes a job interesting. Going into a job where you've done everything before, how long are you going to be satisfied for? You're going to want to look at something else probably in the not too distant future. But if you move into something where there's room for growth, and you've acknowledged that at the beginning, then surely for all parties that's actually a better outcome, I would say.
Yeah, and that transparency, to build on that, Katie, that transparency is something I think is highly needed, because we're kind of in this lying game. The hiring managers are selling a job, and not being super truthful potentially on the also the tough parts of the company. You see many employer branding campaigns which level playing field of also showing their best, obviously. But I agree with you when you're kind of talking about the openness, and you have that that authenticity in the interviews and in the process. I think that's gold, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. It moves us nicely actually onto the candidates and the employer branding piece. So Koos, as he's mentioned, he leads the global employer branding for Danone. And I know we had quite a few questions around that, but one that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. You obviously work within a global organization, and you're constantly having to balance local with global from an employer branding point of view. So I'd love to hear how you go about that.
Yeah, so how kind of balancing the kind of the global group needs, basically,
Yes,
and that consistency with the local needs. That's
absolutely.
Kind of yeah. So I think so I think on three levels I can kind of answer this to structure it a little bit. So I think when we look at it from the global narrative, so what are what's the employer branding tagline? What are the employer branding pillars we want to put forward? Which what life at Danone is and should be about. But also on the visual identity and the material, you want to have that consistency. You want to have whether you're in Russia or you're in Algeria or you're in the US, you want to kind of appear to be one company. So on the visual identity, the material, and the global narrative, but also on the ecosystem, the tooling, the career site, and all of that stuff. And to start on with the global narrative, I've been co-building the employer value proposition and the ecosystem together with the countries. So I've really taken the approach of basically what it is. I hire 1 or 2 people a year. That's my hiring need, and that's not something you do employer branding for, right? That would be not well spent money. But I do it for we do it for the countries which hire 10,000 people a year. So and in the end, and maybe I'm a bit controversial here, but candidates all want similar things anyway. So they all want belonging, they all want camaraderie, great colleagues. They want to be able to be in a place where you can grow, you can have impact, you have a nice atmosphere. And I mean, there's a lot of research companies selling the research and consultancy, and I know that I'm going to probably be lynched by many of them saying this, but we did a huge synthesis study of more than 10 studies on career drivers, and it's kind of universal, really. It's not. It sounds stupid. I don't want to kind of over how do you call it? Make it more complicated than it is. But for me, it's around building the framework, the pillars on these kind of topics, and then requested to countries to kind of express it how it is actually coming to life. and actually showing that's exciting. You know, that's when you hear, okay, well, in IT, it's having an impact means this. In IT or in France, that camaraderie means this.
Yeah.
And you know, having an impact as a brand manager can be different. You know, having an impact than as being a scientist in one of our R&D centers. You know, so it's really having that flexible framework of these storylines, where we should leave it to the countries to gather the stories and make sure it comes alive. Because if it's something that is like a corporate statement, nobody's going to buy it anyway. So this is how I approach this, really together with the countries, having those storylines, those pillars, and then having the countries kind of source those stories from the field. And on the visual identity, we created different visual templates also together with the countries. So we asked them, you know, what type of visual activation do you need? We did the research on what, you know, where the local talents would be on in social media. So it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Also no rocket science. And you, of course, you have some markets which are a little bit different. But generally speaking, we can have 8 templates, and with where we ask the countries, like, what type of needs do you need to express the employer brand and to activate it? And basically we built it that way. We have a tool called Paperfly, which is great, which allows countries to easily, you know, make it a local visual within a minute, you know, agency quality. So it's everything is set up for countries to just create it, localize it, and then run with it. And then last but not least, on the ecosystem, it's kind of a similar approach as the prior points. We had Danoners across the world. We had insights from more than 1,000 people in our key markets of the key Danone of the key, you know, target groups that we want to attract in all the countries. And we asked for their input. You know, what's important when looking for a job on a career site? What do you want to see? And we created these personas that in the end drove the design of not only the global career site, but also the opportunities we were creating for the local countries to have their own local career site, where there are now 13 local career sites live. So I think on those levels, so on the career side, on the visual identity, and on the narrative, it's been, you know, a lot in co-creation and leveraging the great work that our company brand has already done with the visual identity, just taking that and taking it to the next level. I think that's the approach. That's at least that has been my approach, let's say.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, a great candidate experience can have a very strong impact on an employer brand. I know when I speak to people who we're supporting with their job search, they often comment that the experience they go throughout a recruitment process, they often find that's quite a good reflection of the culture within an organisation. So I'd love to get your thoughts. Perhaps start with yourself, Bianca, around you know, how do you make sure that the candidate experience does truly reflect the values of Upfield and the culture that you have there?
I see a question there from Anna-Laura, and it's to Koos, but is in a candidate market where it's clear that companies will find more and more of a great talent, do you really believe that technology adds quality to the initial interview process? I think it depends in which industry you are as well. If I look at the FMCG industry, where I'm from, mainly the candidates we hire are in sales, marketing, supply chain, and finance. If you are a company like Atlassian, who have tech-savvy people, they may have less issues with the process being super digitalized. First and foremost, I go back, speaking from our own candidate experience at Upfield. The feedback that we get from candidates the most is how much they enjoyed the initial contact with the TA specialist in the video screen, because they were actually able to tell them about the business, where the business is heading, Quite a few times candidates were surprised that a talent acquisition specialist was actually working in talent acquisition and not in the actual function, because they were able to tell them so much information. So it's that initial contact with the first person, with a person within the company. And maybe I'm very old-fashioned, I'm really a dinosaur here, but I do think that the human contact is the most important. That's why we ask for employer referrals. That's why we get people to speak to the hiring manager. I think that's, look, when I set out the strategy for Upfield on the candidate journey for this year, what I focus on is authenticity, honesty, and do as you say. Because I really do believe that these are very simple human, which makes us nice and good humans, where you want to talk to her, you be yourself. I'm always myself, and that works. When you say you call back a candidate, you call them back, you give them feedback, and you give them honest feedback and not some rubbish feedback. You're honest about, as I said before, the company culture, what is great, what isn't great. And for me, the longer I work in talent acquisition, I think if you would have asked me 4 or 5 years ago, I would have been all about technology and it's so great, and let's throw the chatbots in and throw all of that in. And I think the longer I work in it, and maybe this year, for me, it's really about these 3 pillars. Be authentic, understand that we talk to people. It's not a product we're shifting as talent acquisition.
Yeah.
It's not something we have to sell quickly. Well, agencies are different. I'm joking, Katie. I am joking. But it is, at the end of the day, we speak with people. And I know that is in the heat of the day and in the heat of the moment, we can forget that easily because we have to deliver. But I think if that as a core, you keep in mind, yeah. And sorry, how do you connect that to, again, how do you connect that to the pillars of your companies? Ours are care, passion, and performance as well. And we built these in our job advertisements. We built this in the care when we talk to candidates as well. In the authenticity that we are a very performing company as well, being honest about what we are about. And passion in the sense that if we do talk to people and we go through the selection process, quite as Koos as well, we've established that the personas we fit the best at Upfield are entrepreneurs who are very passionate about their own function. So, and that's how we, what we built also in the selection process as well, if that makes sense. Long-winded answer, many, but I hope I make sense. Whoa, I go on. So that's my answer.
Yeah, and to build on that, I think it's a great question, Annelore, in the chat, because indeed we want to know more and more about these candidates, right? But it's also a matter of timing, and that's my view. I haven't been able to crack it because it also gets a technological challenge with that. But because for some types of roles, you would get many candidates, you know, and then it's a selection challenge. Where in others, in other types of roles, it's actually a recruitment challenge. It's a sourcing challenge where you need to reach out to people, and you know you're lucky if you get a candidate. And I think in a company of the size of Danone and also Upfield, it's that kind of bandwidth you're dealing with, right? You have all types of roles globally. You have Brazil, where people click on every job and apply to every job they see, and you have jobs in the UK or in the US where you know there's actually nobody applying, and then when you add more and more layers of technology and you're adding in the first steps, I think a lot of these assessment things, you basically boil it down to not getting any applicant, or the right ones are dropping off like flies. So for me, I always kind of keep it at heart, and I hope to be able to crack this topic at Danone in the upcoming years, is where whatever engagement we have with the candidate, that's kind of also the engagement we ask and the input we deliver. So if it's just a CV selection, we shouldn't be asking candidates to run a 45-minute online assessment, because that's just not the right level of investment that a candidate has in the company in the application procedure yet. You could ask that after the second or third interview or whatever, because then, of course, the engagement that the candidate has, the investment the company made in that getting to know that candidate has already been leveled out, and that's already at a decent level. Then you can ask more, but at a certain point at the very beginning, you shouldn't be adding too much layers of it, and that's a very fine delicate decision where to do what, and also a very difficult one from a purely technological way of working. You need to be able to kind of maybe even on the country level have your ATS set up application processes, sending out certain standardized links towards assessment sites, etc. But so that's a very complicated one. It's one where I do thoroughly believe in that should be the way we're moving forward. But it's like I said, it's one with quite some technological challenges along the way. But thanks for this question.
Koos, can I just and I think that is what I found. If you're in a global position, it's so easy to just go, oh, this is the global process now, and this is how everything should work for everybody. But the matter of fact is what you said as well. If I look at India or Pakistan, where we get 800-900 CVs on one position, the process is absolutely different. And if I look at Germany as well, and I think the strength in a position like this is well to admit that as well, and use the local strength as well, and adapt, because there is no one size fits all. Yes, you should have the base of it, which needs to fit, because it needs to fit into the ATS, and you need to be able to extract the data from it to then make educated decisions as well. But you should always be flexible, certainly in the global positions as well, to really adjust it to the local needs as well, because they are different. Whether it's even just by regulations, by work regulations, what you can ask, what you cannot ask, what you need to add, but also just on the local candidate experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, to add on that, when I just started in my job in Paris, I was under the assumption, coming from the Benelux market, that whereas it's a really good practice to have the recruiter name, maybe even a picture and their phone number there. And I said, okay, wow, this is something we should be doing for all jobs, or at least the difficult to recruit ones. And then I talked to one of the regional talent directors, and she says, sorry, what are you thinking about now? And she says, well, in country X, in her scope, it was not only if you have a phone number where candidates would be able to see it. It wouldn't only be that they would continue to call you until you pick up. She said that they would even instruct their family to continue to call you until you pick up. So imagine, doing this global one size fits all, towards more transparency and opening up, and having these practices built on one market's perspective. That's just going to be quite a painful one right there. So I think that's something. To build on what Bianca was saying, one size definitely does not fit all, and indeed this human interaction, to build on what Bianca was saying earlier on the initial question, how to build these company values, and how you build them into your candidate experience. And for me, I always tell countries as well that it's like advertising. We've been doing a great job in branding, but on your first human interaction, that's a moment of truth, right? Then you can see, okay, has it been just all a bunch of corporate bullshit, or is there a consistency, and is it legit? And that's just the thing. If you have openness and humanity and all of that in your core values, but on the other hand, you never connect to somebody, it's a standardized message. It's a tough sell, from a candidate experience perspective. On the flip side, as companies, it is hugely difficult to deliver that, tailored human approach for everybody, because in all reality, when you talk about more than 500,000 applicants a year, you're only going to be able to have a qualitative, interaction with your candidates, so maybe 2 to 4% of them, and that's already, putting the pressure on the local TA team. So it's a slippery slope, and it's an ongoing challenge, I would say.
Thank you. That's a really interesting thoughts. And then you guys are obviously both in leadership roles within the talent acquisition world. So I was interested to hear about any advice you could give people who were perhaps earlier on in their career in talent acquisition, but had the aspirations to be in a leadership role in the future.
For me, it would be curious about the business. Be out there, talk to the business, understand the business, whatever business you are in. Connect with business leader, get to understand what are their needs as well. And I think for talent acquisition, or recruitment is a job you got to love. You got to be sometimes really batshit crazy to do this job because you get a lot of rejections your entire life, and you do, whether it's from you, for Katie, from clients or from candidates. And it is a tough job. Anybody who's been in recruitment for more than 10 years, I do salute you, because it is a tough job. Sometimes also because rejecting candidates is sometimes really just hard. It really is just really hard to sometimes reject candidates. But for me, it is, be interested in the business, network, get your name out there, develop yourself, ask questions, learn about technology as well. And if you want to become a leader, because everybody can become a manager and be really good. I mean, let's not be crazy about it. But to become a leader, I think, lead with your heart, listen to your people, show empathy, understand that the people don't work for you, but that they work with you. And only because you have, which I do have, because I have an absolute fantastic team, and because I have an absolute fantastic team who works hard, who pushes the boundaries, who deliver, I can be great at my job, because they deliver and they, execute the ideas I have, and they execute them well. I do well in my job, and I think I've got an absolute fantastic team at the moment. But lead with your heart and trust your people, empower them, and stand behind them. If they make a mistake, then you own it up and you've got their back. And that's more on the leadership, because anybody can become a recruitment manager or a head of global talent. I mean, it's not rocket science. So anybody can become a marketing manager, but to become a leader, I think these are the qualities you need to have, and sometimes be humble. And it's not my show, it's our show, if that makes sense. I hear the puppy crying in the background, by the way, which makes me super nervous at the moment.
No, thank you. Koos, would you share similar views?
Yeah, I think the puppy was just very much moved by what you said, Bianca.
I knew you had to come up with something like that now. I was waiting for you.
I also have goosebumps. No, but I second everything you say. And for me, I would just say, like, make the 10,000 hours. There's this philosophy of, it's in Outliers from Malcolm Gladwell, great book, highly recommend. But make your 10,000 hours, put in the work, build the expertise on this super important topic, and make sure you connect and engage with business. Make sure you're able to link your work to their people needs also on a more macro level. So not just filling recs, and being in the end the person taking the note on their requirements. No, just link your work to their kind of strategy. And engage with your peers outside, visit conferences, join communities, equip yourself with the parts that you're not that strong at yet. Make sure you have a T-shaped profile on that, interviewing, sourcing, tooling, branding. Keep challenging yourself and have fun along the way. A lot of fun. And indeed, if you connect to some people like buddies, like me and Bianca, like some other people on the call today, just stick to them and connect, and make sure you inspire each other. Have a lot of fun along the way. You get some really great connections out of it, and with that, you you rise up into whatever role feels great, whether it's leading, whether it's working on the architecture globally, whether it's recruiting, kicking ass and taking names, whatever will float your boat in this world of TA. Go for it.
Because it is one of the most beautiful professions there is.
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh man, I love this job. I really love this job. It's awesome. Good.
And if the puppy wasn't feeling emotional enough, Bianca, you obviously mentioned you've got a team now. Is there something that stands out for you as being your proudest moment as a leader?
Now, as I said, I mean, my team delivers. What they do is absolutely amazing at the moment. They've got a lot of pressure, a high workload. They get up every morning and they want to make the process better. But I think what I'm most proud of in building the team, and again, it goes back to honesty as well, and that is that they have the trust in me to, when they are ready to move, and which always breaks my heart when they look outside of Upfield, that they actually inform me and let me know, and we go through the process together. So I know before they go on to interviews, or I know when they go to interviews, I know when they're ready to leave, and then we can have a conversation of saying, hey, what do you need? And we can have this honest conversation. Can I actually give this to you? Do I have the workload or the projects at the moment to make you, to make you happy and fulfilled? And sometimes you have to say no, and you say, well, thank you and goodbye. And I think it is just from a human level, except from what they delivered last year. They hired 900 plus people in a very tough market. They delivered the results. But from a human level, I'm most proud of that they extend this trust to me, in me. And what am I most proud? Yeah, it's a kick-ass team. What can I say? I heard it, Koos. So that's it.
Oh, thank you. And just as Koos couldn't resist a plug of Danone from an employer branding point of view, I can't let you two go without asking a question of my own. And that's from an agency point of view. So obviously, we engage with organizations from an external perspective. So from your point of view, how do you want to work with agencies? What's the approach and the relationship that you like to have with the likes of me?
Well, Koos, you and me, I've got my answer ready.
Good. No, go for it. I'm digesting.
You digest. Look, what I'm looking for is very simple. Somebody who knows the market and really can bring in the right talent. I expect, if I work with agencies, I expect that they actually interview people they bring on board, because otherwise why should I pay 20-30% fee for somebody just having a 15-minute chat with somebody on the phone? If I tell you the things I don't want and you do them anyway, then we're going to have a very quick exit. That means, do as you say. If you can't deliver, again, it comes back to honesty, that I can trust you. If you speak to the business, I don't expect you to rubble off and then talk to the business forever and take on jobs there. It's being honest, being able to deliver. Also being that person I can call on and say, listen, I don't have a job right now, but I've got a question about this specific market. Feed me with information as well. And don't be a salesperson. Don't be this happy, chappy salesperson. How are you, mate? You're going, hey, I'm not your mate. Just be an expert in your market. Let me trust you, and trust you, and don't talk to the business when I tell you not to talk to the business. And that is the most irritating part I find, when I say don't talk to the business because of this, and then they call anyway. It irritates me. So develop that trust relationship and give me great candidates. At the end of the day, That's it. Everything here, but deliver great candidates. And if you can't deliver, tell me. And you don't need to call me every month to ask me if my situation has changed, because my situation probably hasn't changed. And when I have a job for you to fill, I will call you. We will call you. No, but that's it. Listen, I don't mind agent. Obviously, you know, I've worked with some great agencies in the Netherlands, offered Jan Nima for independent recruiters. I've worked with him for over 10 years because I can trust the guy, delivers great candidates, and we help each other out. And that's it. It's a human relationship. And that's it.
Yeah, I think the key word is trust there. You know, if you are really the trusted external kind of arm of the recruitment operations, that's amazing, huh? And then that's, I think, what we should be striving towards. Also, I mean, it's also knowing the company, knowing the brand, knowing you know, the good, the bad, the ugly. So that also, you know, you take a role in, you know, educating candidates, right? I mean, we're not looking for great profiles because, you know, if we want to look for great profiles, we just check out LinkedIn and we'll see great profiles. You know, it's about you guys engaging with them and understanding the company culture and what, you know, the specificities. Sorry about that. That's a tongue twister. But it's about what does fit and what doesn't fit. And I think if you guys also take that part in branding, in selecting, and in educating, and also like Bianca says, you know, no false promises, openness, transparency, and if you can't find the right candidates, that you know, maybe the right profile doesn't, well, it does exist, but they're just not keen to work for us. Great. Also good information, you know, so that we can also, you know, then you get to a working relationship where you're like, okay, maybe we let go of this, maybe it would open up the pool and we can move towards the right hire. But you do need that, have that level of trust between each other, huh? I think.
Absolutely. And just before we close for today, I'll open it out to the floor in case there were any other questions that people wanted to add into the Q&A or the chat box before we sign off for the day. I know we've had a couple of additional points come through, also sharing the love for the TA profession, which is yeah, nice to see. So I think that probably concludes things. So a huge thank you again to Koos and Bianca for joining us. Lively conversation, loved it, really enjoyed that, thank you. And all the delegates, thanks for joining. I'll be reaching out to you personally. Always nice to get your feedback on the event, and always great to hear about any future ideas you've got for these sorts of sessions. So enjoy the rest of the day all, and I hope we can connect again in the near future.